Good afternoon. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. We've been dealing with some technical issues the last little bit, and it sounds like those are resolved. So this will be the last item of our committee, the whole meeting for today. And it is the 2026 Lower Mainland Local Government Association and Union of BC Municipalities Resolution Finalizations. With that, I'll turn it over to staff.
Of Corporate Services. Today, Council will finalize the submitted draft resolutions for consideration. Any resolutions approved today will be advanced for ratification on February 17th, and once ratified, submitted by the February 25th deadline. Okay. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Melissa Pomplito, Corporate Officer, and we do have the two resolutions that we have on the table for further council consideration, and we're happy to take notes. Thanks.
Council. Councillor Anderson, maybe we could start with you. I believe your resolution had some minor tweaking. You could run us through that.
Very good. The key concerns that were highlighted last time around was firstly that the resolution needed to be clearly provincial in scope. And so I've sought to adjust the title to better reflect that message that this is a provincial issue. So I believe that the last title that I used was Squamish Caribou Rail Line. And here I've changed that to Strategic Provincial Rail Corridor. Now, as the discussions behind the resolution with local partners and supporters, West Coast Railway Association and others have gathered, we've been building up the perspective of just how much it is a provincial issue. There's system issues with BC transportation system for which Squamish and the Port of Squamish and the BC Rail Line are being overlooked as to their potential roles and as solutions. Just as examples, CN operates the Second Narrows Rail Bridge right next, parallel to the Second Narrows Vehicle Bridge. And that has been pointed out as a real choke point for the whole Port of Vancouver system and the main rail lines that feed into the Port of Vancouver. And for example, CN has stopped sending its empty rail cars north back up to Prince George via Squamish. It doesn't do that anymore because it doesn't want to pay for the maintenance of this rail line. So it is sending all of the empty cars over that same bridge. And this is adding to the congestion. And there's externalities that are created by this railway operator's practices that we need to, all of us, bring to the attention of the province and the federal government. And a solution is to find some help to maintain this line so that we can use it to alleviate congestion. There's also a lot of reports, most recently the Western Transportation Advisory Council, which points out the issues of capacity, port capacity. Well, if you have a look at Squamish terminals these days, the sheds are empty. There's lots of opportunity to offer solutions from Squamish and from the BC Rail Line. So I feel that we, through the backgrounder that we've added to this resolution and with a different title, we've made a better case for this being a real provincial issue addressing the Squamish to 100 Mile House rail line. Now, the other issue was brought up by Mayor Herford, and that was the timing. Of course, we're not going to be presenting this to the UBCM until September, and some of the decisions could well be made this summer. Well, as it turns out, that's not going to be the case. The federal and provincial governments are not going to be expected to sort out the issue of how to maintain the rail line over the long run, or sort out their policies as to how to accommodate a new operator, a short line operator. That's just not going to be done by this summer. So we needn't worry about the timelines. and that with the buzz that's being created by our letter earlier, Mayor Herford's letter last fall, I think the governments are getting the message that communities are concerned, not least Squamish, so that we needn't worry about that. Finally, and it's another issue that comes to us, we're going to a Lower Mainland Local Government Association. Of course, our regional district partners are rail line communities, but how do we convince Surrey and Burnaby and all of these other folks down there that this is of interest to them? Well, as it turns out, the bridge issue that I just mentioned, the second narrowest rail bridge, affects all of the North Shore port facilities. And it's in fact a well-known issue. You may have heard in the news that Canada is not going to be shipping its potash through a Canadian port. It's going to be shipping them through an American port. Why? Because of the congestion in the North Shore related to the use of that bridge. The potash companies just don't trust the Port of Vancouver. Now, that is a Lower Mainland issue, and clearly, as such, we can convince that this resolution belongs at the LMLGA. I'll leave it at that in case there's any questions. I'll be happy to address them.
Council, questions or thoughts for Councillor Anderson? Councillor Stoner.
Just a thanks to my colleague for all of his work and the reflections and changes that have been made. I think this is a strong resolution. I'd be happy to see it go forward to LMLGA and hopefully beyond.
Anyone else? What are you looking for from us here at this point with this?
I can provide some process guidance on next steps for this. So you have two options. If you are happy with the resolution as it is right now, council can vote on it and we can put it on the consent agenda for ratification the next regular business meeting. If you do have a resolution that you're not quite comfortable with the wording yet, we can put it on the next regular business meeting for finalization. So you have those two options, and it's up to council's discretion which direction you would like to go with this.
Okay. So, Councillor Stoner.
I was going to suggest that we move to endorse it.
And that would be this one resolution. Seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Comments? Councillor
Chair,
Anderson?
I have some comments, but my hand isn't working.
Okay, I've got Councillor Anderson and then you next, Councillor Pettingill.
Chair, I just thought I should add a word about the role of First Nations in the consultation around a resolution like this, and in the vision for the impacts and implications for First Nations. Well, I can happily relate that there are quite a number of First Nation communities up through into the Caribou that are very concerned and actively interested in this issue because they want to develop rail tourism. Other First Nations, for example, in the Chilcotin, are looking for solutions for transporting in future forest products. So there is more work to do on the part of the Northern Development Initiative Trust, who have a couple of consultants working on a related package, and they're busy consulting. So I just wanted to touch that issue that First Nations are in focus, and in the new added backgrounder, there is reference to interests that have been expressed directly from First Nations regarding their old use of the old railway to go and shop for groceries, which they can't do anymore, haven't been able to do for a while. And so I just wanted to register that interest on the part of First Nations, and we can welcome their support for this resolution as it goes forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Anderson. And Councillor Pettingill, I'm told that the raise hand function is available again, but go ahead.
Yeah, it just showed up. Thank you. And yeah, I will support this. I think it's significantly improved. I do still wonder about the being specific to a public-private rail line in the mention of a short line, just because, I think there definitely needs to be discussions with the players involved, and I would say even consideration of these things, but not only these things. And I would just note that a few of us, I think, signed the Elbows Up for Climate action, which is municipal leaders looking for significant federal action. One of the things there is high-speed rail, publicly owned, for transportation, as well as buses and so on connecting to it. So I think there's a few pieces that might actually be quite supportive of the discussion and stuff that needs to happen here. So I would wonder about a couple of tweaks. So I'll just sort of give that as food for thought, just so we can sort of strengthen it. I think there's a lot of different interests that would like to see rail preserved for many different reasons, and in many different ways. And so make sure that we are sort of not closing off helpful discussion. But yeah, otherwise, happy to see this move forward to next week. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Pettingill. Any further comments? I'll just share a few. I'm supporting this motion and thankful for the resolution, and will focus on the District of Squamish doing its part to support our northern neighbors. I think that this is really important for communities that are north of us. So Lillooet and on to Williams Lake. My BC geography should be stronger. I should be able to name off a few more communities, but they know who they are. And I'm happy that we're doing what we can as the District of Squamish to support the economies of those northern communities. And with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Thank you. So then that takes us to the other draft resolution that's in our package and part of the agenda. And this one originates with me via Kamloops City Council. Councillor Bill Sarai apparently is the main architect of what we have in front of us. So I took their wording and tightened it up a little bit. Wanted to tighten it up further as per the LMLGA guidelines for writing resolutions, but really couldn't find a way to reduce the whereas clauses. And down in the therefore, I removed all the extra references to the other regional organizations because we just don't need that in our version of this resolution. And I checked with Kamloops about a backgrounder. None exists. Not sure how it is that they're sending this in without a background, but apparently that's the case for them. So I have done a first draft on background. It's concise, it's short, it doesn't say a whole heck of a lot more than what we've got in the resolution. And I think that it can suffice as the background for this resolution. So at this point, I'm happy to hear any comment and feedback from the rest of you. Councillor Stoner, you look like you're gunning to go.
Yeah, just seeking, I think, some further clarity. That to me, this seems to conflate a handful of things that are ongoing at the province. Some conversations around DRIPA and potential review of that legislation, while also bringing in components around the Heritage Conservation Act, which is very live, has been postponed many times as a result of calls from UBCM. There was extensive survey that UBCM did to represent local government interests, and then we saw further delay from the province in actually implementing that regulatory reform. So I'm just curious why these are all being folded into one, what the common thread is. And then my other question was, in the therefore be it resolved clause, it's specifically to LMLGA and not to UBCM. And so is the intent for this to stop at LMLGA, or is the ask actually to UBCM, or both?
Yeah, I'm thinking back to the original resolution. I actually have it here. And I think the original was reaching out to both LMLGA and UBCM. So I think there could be value in inserting UBCM, be it resolved that the LMLGA and UBCM call on the province. And um, just on the question of these items coming together, that would be a good question for Kamloops, because I'm simply taking their work and getting it into the mix for LGA. But I hear you. And I don't necessarily have a specific response for that. The resolution is what it is. And if we want to support this as a group, then that's what we do. And if we don't, I'm not married to it at all. Any other comments? Questions? Councillor Anderson.
This morning in our committee of the whole meeting, we addressed processing improvements and development incentives, how we can facilitate meeting our housing targets. And in fact, one of the issues that does come up from once in a while is archaeological impact assessments and their costs and the delays for projects as a result. Delays also for our projects. We have experienced this and we have experienced these extra costs. So therefore, I do appreciate the statement here that local governments are not, well, at any rate, they should be, we should be included as formal partners so that we can share our experience and our suggestion to the province as to how we can cope with these demands and expectations of these various pieces of legislation relating to Heritage Conservation Act, reconciliation, DRIPA. Because it's clear from the seminars I've been attending on the Heritage Conservation Act, but that a common problem around the province is there's a shortage of professional archaeologists. There is also a lack of resources, both information and facilities that dispense that information that can support the work of the archaeologists. Here in Squamish, our archaeologists go to the library. Libraries are underfunded, and they should be a hub for the kind of information that an archaeological overview assessment or impact assessment may require, such as mapping and this sort of thing. And this is in fact a real constraint. And if we would have that, if we were able to work together with the province, we could better communicate these needs and work out solutions with the province so that our goals in heritage conservation and archaeology can be better supported through collaboration and finding solutions for the resources, including human resources that we need for them. So I like the emphasis on that, working as partners, and also the pointing out in the first whereas, the implications for local government, costs and delays. Thank you.
Councillor Penningill.
Yeah, thanks. I'm a bit challenged with this as it's framed, to be honest. I know it, just in terms of the Heritage Conservation Act, to me, this does seem separate from the DRIPA discussion, unless there's something I'm missing. And I recognize that on our agendas, we have seen summaries and requests from the province to participate in feedback and so on. So I hear from my colleague, Councillor Stoner, that UBCM has also been active and this is sort of ongoing. So it's not clear to me that the province isn't including us in review and feedback in terms of Heritage Conservation Act and archaeology processes. And then in terms of DRIPA, I understand that, you know, some people are calling from reform or repeal or review of DRIPA, and there's different discussions. Personally, unless I'm misunderstanding, reform, review, repeal, none of those are foregone. Not really something I'm interested in at this point. So for me, if there are implementation discussions that we are absent from, that would be something that I could maybe get behind with a better understanding of where the gaps are in terms of implementation. But to me, these are sort of two separate asks, and they need more clarity and a little more focus on what exactly is missing. That's sort of where I am at the moment.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Penningill. Any further thoughts? Councillor Anderson.
I'm actually in good agreement with Councillor Pettigo. There does need to be a clearer focus, and that we don't want to give impressions through this, and it's unnecessary to do so, that we are at odds with DRIPA. Its implementation, and this is what Councillor Pettigo also emphasizes. So that clarity, I think, is a good suggestion. Need for clarity.
Okay. Then I think at this point, I'll move that we endorse this resolution, and then if there is a seconder, we can vote on it. Yeah, you're going to second that, Councillor Anderson? Okay. Do you want to speak on it? I've said everything there is for me to say. Okay, I'll call the question. Oh, yeah, you want to go ahead,
I'll
Councillor?
just comment briefly. I won't be supporting it. I think I understand where portions of this are trying to go, but as I mentioned in some of my earlier comments to you, Councillor, that I think that this requires some additional focus and clarity in terms of bringing it really into focus of what is currently going on between the different local government associations, UBCM, and separating out DRIPA and the Heritage Conservation Act work, because I think that those are two separate files.
Councillor Pettigo?
Similar to me with Councillor Anderson's resolution, I had a couple comments that were, I think we're close enough that I was able to support seeing this go forward sort of as it was presented or close to as presented. It does seem that there needs to be a fair bit more work. I would consider a different draft next week, and I will just have a comment after this vote is done related to that. But yeah, this as is not supportable to my mind. I think a fair bit more clarity on what the asks are, what the resolutions are, needs to happen for this to be supportable. Again, would consider something a little bit different next week, but not this as it's framed.
Thanks, Councillor Pettingill. Any further comments? Council, I'm going to call the question, and I'm going to do it inconsistent to the way I've been doing it most of today. I'm sensing this isn't going to be successful. So are there any opposed? Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Pettingill, Councillor Greenlaw, Councillor Anderson, and Councillor Stoner are opposed. The motion fails. Councillor Pettingill, you indicated you wanted to follow up?
Yes, thanks. And I did let Ms. Franks know I am still working on that resolution that I talked about. I've got a meeting scheduled for Thursday, so I know it's going to be very last minute. So hopefully what I come up with will be supportable, but I haven't forgotten or abandoned my attempt to have a resolution. I just wasn't able, unfortunately, to get a draft today. So just a heads up that is likely to be on our agenda as well on Tuesday, and that is around air quality, air pollution regulations.
Very good. Thanks for the heads up on that. And with the outcome of the vote on the second resolution, I'm not intending to pursue this any further. The fact that there's no backgrounder and the comments that I heard from my colleagues, I just think that putting any more energy into this would be a waste of my own time. So I'm not going to pursue it further. Anything else? Councillor Hammerson?
Motion to terminate if there are no further questions.
Okay, very good. So the motion to terminate is from Councillor Hamilton. Very well done, my friend. Seconded by Councillor Stoner. All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody, for your good work today.